This virtual presentation will highlight aspects of a current PhD study by Meg Lom, working with Associate Professor Kim Snep-Vanges and Associate Professor Arian Rourke at the University of New South Wales in Sydney, Australia. The research investigation is focused on identifying international students' connectedness capabilities and professional identity formation practices within professional digital ecologies in the postgraduate art and design higher education context. The study is positioned in the Australian Government higher education policies context, where reviews of a range of policies found disparate references to key literature-derived concepts of connectedness capabilities and identity formation. The Australian National Strategy for International Education 2025 advocates for international students to be supported in making social, professional, cultural, and alumni connections, and it further acknowledges that best practice approaches are needed for international students to be supported with community connections. This strategy also identified the importance of mobile and innovative technology for use in education as underutilised. This identified gap is where this research project is situated. The NSIE 2025 document was developed through extensive consultation with the Coordinating Council for International Education. It recognises that a significant growth aspect in the sector is linked to future skilled employability and industry-integrated student opportunities. The continued evolution and expansion of courses with industry links and global engagement for the future is key to the goals set out in the first pillar. This part of the national strategy has goals which develop, support, and maintain the already established education, training, and research system, providing nationally consistent approaches in student-informed choice, global engagement, quality assurance, and student protection. Pillar 2 encompasses making transformative partnerships with the broader Australian community, business and industry by innovation transfer, internships and work-based learning. The pillar further advocates the necessary strengthening of overseas government-to-government and institution-to-institution engagement and partnerships, as these will, quote, lay the foundation of bilateral and multilateral collaboration within all levels of education. Enhancing mobility is another important aspect of this pillar, as it sets out the significance of having relevant and flexible visas for study and work for both international students, education professionals, and researchers. Access to a global collaborative network of opportunities such as scholarships and the new Colombo Plan support cross-mobility in a global setting. To ensure this is possible, qualification recognition is also an integral part of the strategy. Lastly, this pillar also sets out the importance of network connections through alumni partnerships. The Australian Global Alumni Engagement Strategy supports this development to ensure cultural and economically sustainable engagement will in the future continue to grow. The last pillar of the strategy identifies the rapid global growth in the international education sector and focuses on stimulating continued quality education, products and services in the global market. The notion of a borderless society in education, training and employment is a vital aspect in the adaptive delivery of technological and innovative learning. This pillar also recognises the importance of developing regional communities to accommodate international students, while also acting to isolate new market prospects, partnerships and awareness of ongoing changes in the sector. From the research completed, graduate employability of international students has emerged as a key issue in literature and policies. In the Australian higher education context, graduate employability has been defined by Professor Shelley Kinnash in 2015 as, quote, higher education alumni that have developed the capacity to obtain and or create work. This definition is in keeping with the international education policy expectations. However, Australian academic Ruth Bridgestock argues that graduate employability should embody a networked approach where connectedness learning is utilised as part of a model that brings together individual capabilities, learning and teaching approaches, and broader institutional enabling strategies. Graduate employability needs support from teacher-enabling strategies that promotes connectedness capabilities. It is well researched that one of the motivating factors for completing higher education in Australia is to be more employable. Kate Gribble sets out in her research that for international graduates seeking relevant skills, work experience is a priority. International students are seeking educational opportunities that provide a point of difference in a highly competitive global market. Yet, international students are disadvantaged by not knowing or having access to the Australian labour market. Negotiating the job application process and Australian workplace culture can limit opportunities. Language competency in communication or soft skills is imperative for international students to gain success. Discipline-specific language is also necessary. Gribble also attributes changing attitudes and perceptions of employers to host international students as important, as these intercultural experiences encourage dialogue and are seen as value-adding. Connectedness capabilities have, with the emergence of the Web 2.0 environment, become defined within debates about how participation, network literacy, social network literacy, and social capital for international students can inform new ways of connecting. This connection can be facilitated by theoretical frameworks of digital social ecosystems, communities of practice, and ecologies of learning in social and networked environments. Connectedness and professional identity formation in creative fields of practice is inherently characterised by nonlinear pathways and networks that are often formed through informal arrangements, mostly through collaborative means. Sustained professional opportunities and regular work arrangements require artists and designers to manage, negotiate, establish, and re-establish networks over time. Technology becomes the conduit through which enhanced, adaptable professional learning practices can evolve within diverse learner ecologies. Social media platforms and network technologies are underpinned by the ideas of digital profiling, sharing, networking, and connectivity. In 2016, authors Boskert and Tu referred to this space as a digital social ecosystem, where the social network is distinguished by, quote, a social structure that consists of nodes and ties between these nodes, end quote. For individuals, the digital social ecosystem offers the space for connectedness and interactivity to occur, while also giving opportunity to manage an individual's identity for a variety of purposes. These could be personal, educational, and professional. Individuals are able to create and curate multiple identities, edit, delete, and then recreate identities. Because these environments can function as ecologies, they allow social interaction and let these identities influence and be influenced by others. Digital social ecosystems also encourage the development of a space for social learning, often with and through informal channels. It can be helpful to extend the ecologies metaphor here to include the concepts of learning ecologies as defined by Maynard and Garcia in 2016 as, quote, productive framework for observing and analysing interactions between people and their environment, their experiences across different contexts, and participation in diverse communities. Maynard and Garcia present current definitions in literature that define learning ecologies to include information ecologies, temporal and spatial ecologies, creation of community ecologies, formal learning ecologies, e-learning and e-learning design ecologies, and ecologies of practice. These definitions provide for the diverse uses and understandings of ecologies in learning literature. Maynard and Garcia also assert that learning ecologies are shaped by mobile, social, and networked technologies, blurring the boundaries between formal and informal learning. Technology then becomes the vehicle where adaptable learning practices can exist. This is an important application of social media channels like Twitter, Facebook, and WeChat, as these online spaces become the conduit between forming relationships, learning, and developing a presence within a community. Making the correlation between digital social ecosystems and learning ecologies metaphor develops a deeper understanding of the practices social media can afford informal social learning experiences. The investigation then took focus on identifying and investigating existing cases of professional art and design student ecologies. Exemplar cases were identified that demonstrated how academics in art and design are using informal social media and digital spaces to support students in identity development. Academics cite collaborative mentoring, reflective practices through creating digital artefacts, and leveraging a global community of practice network as ways to make connection and support students professionally. Connectedness capabilities and professional identity formation are prominent in Cochrane and Antichak's 2015 case that visualises global interactions in a 6-week graphic design, moving image and video production elective. The aim is to support students in their development of a professional identity. The scholars argue that academics are not superseded by mobile and social media, and that lack of student critical skills is evident. They also conclude a concern with ethical practice of both students and academics in this social space. The scholars set their case within the context of mobile social media and its critical and ethical use, while also demonstrating the uptake of established worldwide educator networks as models to support a student community of practice. 2 established professional networks were tapped into as part of the course elective. ICOLAB and MOCO 360 were established communities of practice where academics as industry professionals were encouraged to participate in the course community. They provided students with authentic professional engagement with social media within the structure of, quote, global communication and collaboration. Connectedness here is scaffolded through course design and a mobile social media framework for creative pedagogies. Connectivity is supported by a global network of academics, art and design professionals that are invited to participate in specific assessment activities through a range of social media applications. Cochrane and Antichak identify that students need to make a conceptual shift from using social media for personal use to see its value in supporting professional identity formation. This is done progressively in the course through formative and summative assessment activities that include personal digital identity via Google+ and Twitter, creating promotional videos via Vine, personal workbook via WordPress, Behance professional community, collaborating through Viclone, presenting e-portfolios and reflections. These projects are moved through with support from guest lectures and are embedded in conceptual shift-making from teacher-led experiences to student-negotiated experiences. What is identified here by the case is that students need to be made aware and be part of the process of identity development. Professional identity formation is embedded in the tasks, allowing students to see how to build through a range of social media platforms a digital presence or branding. The scholars use evidence from student reflections to demonstrate the impact this has had on student curation and development of professional digital identities. Cochrane and Antichak engage Tags Explorer to demonstrate connectivity as visualised through conversational nodes. The study finding that academics were symbolised by conversational nodes and students were mainly identified as isolated nodes. 2 students were starting to be conversational in their interaction. What must be remembered about this case is that this was a 6-week course and that interaction and connectivity could be time affected. This is listed as a limitation by the academics. The Tag Explorer also presents Twitter as an instrument that assists connections within the network of social media sites. This visualization is representative of many cross-sections across many platforms, illustrating the depth of connections made within the group. It visualizes the network connections of the participants in the course. The context of this case is multidimensional and utilizes modeling of design experts, scaffolding development of professional identity for students through Vine videos, WordPress blogs, portfolios on Behance, reflective practices, collaborative course Google Mapping, and a Google Plus community. This case approach demonstrates the complexity of knowledge needed to build, navigate, and sustain an online presence using Web 2.0 capabilities. So today's global international perspective is embodied by a prolific diversity of populations, groups, and individuals who live in a growing on-screen closeness. In our post-COVID world, mobile technologies and media are now more than ever connecting people through a convening of cultures and dialogues. Online devices and software have enabled and supported connections and interconnectedness to grow into living and ever-changing digitally networked ecologies. Communication is essential and central to the connections being made. The White Paper on International Dialogue 2008 defines intercultural dialogue as open and respectful exchange of views between individuals and groups belonging to different cultures that leads to a deeper understanding of the other's global perception. Intercultural encounters are increasingly being experienced in social digital spaces. It is clear from the research investigation that further articulation of connectedness capabilities, especially how to establish and sustain creative partnerships with Australian industry and international alumni, is a neglected aspect of international education literature. Institutional resourcing of digital living frameworks to support real-world learning in the Australian creative industry context has been identified as limited. The gap for this research occurs in the literature of international education policy frameworks in terms of iterative, creative, and adaptive industry engagement, as well as a lack of academic credit-level coursework in localised postgraduate programs in the author's context. Recognition and transformation of international student experience will involve assisting institutions and industries to recognise social and professional aspects of value adding that international students can provide, particularly with fulfilling intercultural dialogue opportunities. International student graduate employability is then supported by an associate pedagogy and appropriate levels of institutional resourcing where connectedness capabilities can exist and be strengthened. The importance of connectedness capabilities and professional identity formation as essential skills are required to successfully navigate the world of employment, professional knowledge creation, and exchange. Connectedness and professional identity development become key aspects of professional practice to ensure that postgraduate network ecologies are sustained and continuous. The focus then of this investigation is on the professional human relationships and patterns of connectedness that exist in postgraduate social and online digital ecologies. Thank you for taking the time to listen to my presentation. I look forward to your comments and questions.